I don't know if you've ever taken time out to consider the impact that social media has on your life. We all know that it's a source of pleasure, but it's also a source of distraction, and it can become very counterproductive. Some of the reasons for this are well known. For example, we've already discussed the influence that the dopamine hit has on us. So the expectation and the reward of scrolling constantly through indefinite stimuli, lots of different ideas and no two things being the same, provocative statements, sexy pictures, interesting, fast-moving cats. Well, all of these things contribute to a sense of distraction which is pervading our lives. And this distraction, of course, as far as the social media producers are concerned, is by design. What I'd like to do is to explore some of the ways that distractions happen to us, and then perhaps suggest some ways that we can overcome some of those distractions. The infinite scrolling and the way that the algorithms produce things that we want to see based on the things that we hesitate over or the things we tap on. This is another reason why distractions become part of our lifestyle. We are being funneled, literally, into areas of concern and enjoyment which appeal directly to us. And the algorithms are doing this based on our previous behaviors. So you're fighting a losing battle really against social media when it comes to resisting the temptation to be distracted. Then of course there's the social side of social media consumption, which is FOMO, or the fear of missing out. A lot of people scroll endlessly and go through social media because they feel that it gives them an attachment to their own peer group. And it doesn't matter what your peer group is, you could be 60 or 16. The fact is, the social media that you choose to use is chosen by you because it appeals to you and your peer group. The fear of missing out keeps us attached to the umbilical cord, if you like, of social media. We're so afraid to miss out on the next trend, or the next idea, or the next news bite, or the next controversy, or the next example of fear-mongering, that we keep scrolling and we keep attached, just in case something happens and we don't get to notice it. And then of course, social media serves the active role of being a means to procrastinate. We can always fall back on the excuse that, oh, it's the dopamine hit, oh, it's the endless attraction, the entertainment, all the wonderful things that we see in social media. But the bottom line is that it can be used as a tool to procrastinate. How many times have you found people who should be at work who are actually at play? And if they're challenged, they might justify their actions by saying, well, this is my friend's Facebook group, or this is my friend's Instagram account, or this is my relative's TikTok. Bottom line is, it's just a form of procrastination. So, when you look at these factors, the constant notifications, the infinite scrolling possibilities, the fear of missing out, the emotional triggers, and the fact that social media is literally a tool for procrastination, it's easy to see that it's a difficult thing to overcome. So what kinds of tools can we employ to try and overcome the dragging impact or the dragging effect that social media has on our lives? Let's have a look at that in a little bit more detail. But first, a quick recap. If you find that you are constantly distracted by social media, it means that you are in a reciprocal relationship with social media. You may feel that you're just a passive recipient of the information, but the truth of the matter is, at some stage or at some level, you've signed an invisible contract with social media, and you allow it to do certain things to you and with you and with your blessing. You like the dopamine hit. You like the excitement, you like the anticipation. And social media knows that you like those things. And because it's able to focus its attention on the things that you focus your attention on, this reciprocation is now enhanced. Not only are you getting your dopamine hits, you're getting more dopamine hits because you're more likely to see things that you like. And the more likely you are to see things you like, the more likely you are to tap or scroll on them, and the more likely they are to be served up to you. And then when you have the fear of missing out, this goes to the core of identity really, doesn't it? Because many of us feel we're defined by our social proof. And what better way to get social proof than to participate in shared activities online? And the shared activities don't require a lot of investment. All they require is the movement of your finger and the gaze that you lay upon it. So it's a real quick, easy way to validate your own identity and participate in social proof with others who may share your views. The emotional triggers that I experience on social media are going to be very different to the emotional triggers that a 16-year-old male would, or a 24-year-old female would. But the truth of the matter here is that social media is so diverse and wide and so analogically focused that it can be serving everybody individually all the time. And each individual it's serving feels like they're the only person in the world. This is a wonderful way to run a relationship, isn't it? And then of course, as a procrastination tool, finally, that unwritten contract or the unseen contract that you have with social media is that you will serve it with your attention if it will justify your attention by continuing to stimulate you. So you have a two-way street here. You can't just blame social media for the fact that you're distracted. You have to accept responsibility that you're distracted because you've written an invisible contract with social media to allow this kind of nonsense to go on. I suggest that we look at ways that we can break the cycle. Unless, of course, you really enjoy being, social media's bitch. And if you really enjoy that, then fine. You can cut off here and don't watch the next part. But if you're interested in looking at some ideas to try and overcome the distractions and to maybe wean yourself off social media, even if a little bit, then continue to watch, and we'll get down to that in a little moment. So, one suggestion, this is information or advice that I received by listening to Jim Rohn recently. And in this day of AI created content, I can't hand on heart say he actually said this, but it really does sound like Jim Rohn, so let's go with it's Jim Rohn's idea. He suggested that if you find yourself distracted, it's a good idea to do a time audit. Setting up a time audit might be a good way to, first of all, diagnose what the issues are and where the chinks in your armour are. The advice that I've received from my many advisors is that you should go for a 3-day run and try to take a time audit over a 3-day period and see how much time you spend doing what. I think it's a good idea because I think it's a good way to focus your thoughts for a start. It also might be quite an eye-opening experience just to see how much time you tend to spend just dicking around. You can identify patterns. It may be that you can identify the kinds of patterns that match your own life rhythm. For example, if you're a morning person, it may be that you hit the books early and get stuff done. Or it may be that you're straight into YouTube in the morning, straight onto the TV, or straight onto Instagram. So identifying patterns, I think, is a good way to challenge some of your naughty little habits, shall we say. Also, The good thing about a time audit is that it can encourage you to start to prioritize your time. And so instead of just aimlessly drifting from one task to another, you can start to break your day down into manageable chunks and then deal with priorities. I often try to deal with priorities, but I get so wrapped up in them that other stuff falls by the wayside. My jury's out on that one, I must confess. Personally, I think if you can get 3 or 4 decent things done in a day, then it's a good day. Other people might think that 7 or 8 good things in a day are a good day. Either way, the point I'm making is that by auditing your time, you can get a grasp of how you're spending it, and you can also then get a handle on how to manage it better. And of course, the thing that comes with managing your time better, having diagnosed your situation, is that you can set boundaries for yourself. You can ring fence times of your day so that you're not, as I say, drifting aimlessly. So some of the purposes of a time audit are to increase your awareness, set your boundaries, get a diagnosis of how your time is being spent, and encourage you to prioritize your time more effectively. And finally, a time audit would be a good way to promote productivity. By staring into the abyss, as it were, and having a look at where you're messing up or where you're wasting time, it might be a very good way for you to overcome the problem. And I say overcome the problem because if you're watching this, it's because you want to tackle the problem of being distracted. We've already explained why you get distracted and how you get distracted. And so now what we're trying to do is to tackle how not to get distracted. And that valuable first step, I think, is to get a time audit set up and just evaluate how you spend your time for 2 or 3 days and have a look at your conclusions at the end. You might be shocked and stunned. As with many things, doing a time audit can become a skill that you can develop. So at the outset, set yourself a 3-day window to evaluate how you spend your time, and then you can record all your activities and see where the cracks appear. Analyze the data, as it were, and then you can start to set limits on how you spend your time where it is being used unproductively. You can also replace some of the previous scrolling habits and some of the distractions with more interesting or more productive habits. One way to do it is, instead of pushing the on button on the remote or pushing the on button on your laptop or the scroll, is to pick up a book, to make a note, set something in your calendar, do something a little bit more productive, just to break the cycle. So having done the time audit and having worked out where the little mini cycles are pervading in your life, then you have to work out ways that you can break the cycle so that you can reclaim control over the time that you spend and how you spend it. And finally, a time audit is a great way to enable you to review how you use your time on a regular basis. So if you treat it like a skill, perhaps we could look at a time audit initially of 3 days, evaluate the data, remedy the problems, or attempt to remedy the problems, and then when you've got an angle on that, you can then set yourself a more ambitious program of a time audit of 5 days. Do a 5-day audit, re-evaluate, re-diagnose, gain more control, and then go up to a 7-day audit. So, baby steps. If you want to challenge and overcome the distractions in your life, you're going to have to first diagnose where those distractions lie. And then once you've diagnosed where the distractions lie, and I recommend you think about social media, how you use it here. Once you've diagnosed where your distractions lie, then you can start to ring fence and set boundaries for yourself in order to overcome those limiting distractions. More of this later. I hope you find it useful. Until next time, go well, and let's do the right thing.